Sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Progressive presents Renters MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Emily Neal's 70-inch TV. Because after watching her second-grade students yell at each other for hours, there's nothing Emily enjoys more than watching super-rich housewives also yell at each other. Why? Because those women are not her responsibility. And that's why her TV is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
An accident northbound I-15 in Sandy near 90th South. Out of traffic on the right shoulder. Also a crash called out on Highway 6 in Spanish Fork Canyon. This is going to be east of Diamond Fork and the canyon. Highway 6 getting a lot of rain at this time in Utah County. Common Spirit, hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And there's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow. We'll dry out and cool off for Saturday and Sunday. Right now, we're at 85 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
3 full nights of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois are in the books. We've got another look at Tim Walz as the Democrats' nominee, and there were some interesting options and segments of his speech. Some played well, some less so. And there were other speakers that you may not have watched as closely that had important messages, I think, not just for the Democrats, but for everybody. So let's get past the headlines. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, night number 3 at the United Center in Chicago was another big night for the Democrats as they minted Tim Walz as the nominee for vice president for the Democrats. And really interesting. There's some components of his speech that I think played really well and some that I think were a little bit of a swing and a miss. And since he's a coach, he understands that part of the program. He played attack dog at some points. I think those were less effective. I think he played the idea guy and the neighbor next door, the coach next door, and did that incredibly well and got to some things that I think are part of the important conversation. Now, as we begin all of this, as we've been going through the Democratic National Convention this week, as I often do, I ask everyone to put your politics on the side for a second because you can praise a great speech, you can praise a great set of principles, and you can have great disagreements with a whole host of practical, tactical governing kinds of things, or what policy looks like, or what the results might be, and that's okay. So those things will all come, and political conventions have not been the place of great substance in a long, long time. The Republicans put up no more in terms of policy at their convention just a month ago than the Democrats have put up over the last 3 days. So I'm not going to go into deep analysis in terms of all of that, but I am looking at messaging strategy. I'm looking at what resonates both in the arena with the delegates, that's the base of the Democratic Party, as well as what seems to be playing well outside the building and across the country. Because those are things that we all should be thinking about, regardless of political party or persuasion. And so that's what I like to break down, to say, okay, here's some points of agreement. Here's an interesting thing. Wow, here's something that you could have seen in a Republican convention and you saw in a Democrat convention last night. So you don't have to agree with all the things, but the politics aside, look at this from a communication strategy. And remember, when it comes to these kinds of speeches, it's really about the essence of rhetoric. And rhetoric is prodding those feelings, those emotions of what we should believe about what we should believe. And getting into that's like, oh, yeah, either I believe that or, wow, I should believe that, and creating space for people to think about it. So it's an interesting thing to get through when you look at the nuances of these kinds of conventions. So let's start with the vice presidential nominee, Governor Tim Walz. He did a little bit of both, as I said. He did a little bit of the attack dog component. So let's start with that. He went after Republicans as the party of freedom.
When Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. Corporations free to pollute your air and water. And banks free to take advantage of customers.
So that was an interesting flip. I think for the most part, Democrats have been trying to be very positive in terms of what that freedom is. And I think they're going to experience a little bit of the backlash of that kind of approach. So Tim Walz is saying, hey, when Republicans talk about freedom, they're talking about freedom for government to get in the middle of your life or big business to get into your bank account. That's their version of freedom. I think you're going to see ads coming out very, very soon from the Republicans that are going to take this concept of joy that has been a driving force throughout the Democratic convention, and they're going to try to do the same thing and flip the script. And the ads are going to say, not having enough money to pay for groceries does not bring me joy. Not having a secure border and feeling safe does not bring me joy. Paying more at the gas pump does not bring me joy. And so you can see how both sides are going to use the rhetorical spin to try to take something that seems to be playing well for one party and then flip it on its head. And that's the ebb and flow of what happened. Now, I will say that in the attack dog mode, and that does seem to be part of the job of being the vice president or the vice presidential nominee. And I'm sad that we've made that sort of the requirement, as if we were keeping those running for president above the fray. That's not happening on either side. So let's no longer make it the job of the vice president or the vice presidential nominee to be the attack dog because they have to keep their top of the ticket above the fray, because it's not happening anyway. Everybody's in the fray. Let's just all get out of the fray, and then no one would have to be the attack dog, and we could have an actual debate about big ideas and big policies and things that will impact the American people. Tim Walz gave some attack lines, went down the Project 2025 boogeyman that they have created in the Democratic Party, and it played flat. The audience just didn't engage with it. And I have seen this throughout this Democratic convention. I think it's so interesting. Nancy Pelosi last night, who is the queen of the convention and has been for decades and decades, and even though she's never been a great orator, she's always got rousing reception and rousing response to her speeches. And she got very polite golf claps yesterday because she went, January 6th, former President Trump is the existential threat to humanity, and went into that very negative, dark space. It didn't play. It didn't play for these Democratic delegates. Again, this is the base of the Democratic Party, but it didn't play there. I think that's so interesting. I think it's instructive, and it's going to be interesting to see how that moves forward. Now, when Tim Walz went back to his sweet spot, being a high school football coach, a high school teacher, being a good neighbor, being a Midwesterner, things really began to sing and dance, and the crowd began to roar.
Let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team.
He went on to say, we're going to do it an inch at a time, a yard at a time, a door knock at a time, a $5 donation at a time, and he really took it home. And he did it incredibly well. It was very well written. It was a short speech under 15 minutes. That also played well for the crowd because he didn't start speaking until 11:30 p.m. Eastern, well past prime time on the East Coast. So I think, again, from those running the convention, that's a bit of a miss to have your nominee not speaking until well after prime time on the East Coast. Now, former President Bill Clinton spoke and took some pokes at his own age, and of course the age of former President Trump in the process. He's a little bit younger than former President Trump. But he said that the Republicans are looking at things just a little bit different than the Democrats are.
What does their opponent do with his voice? He mostly talks about himself, right? So the next time you hear him, don't count the lies. Count the eyes.
So there he was actually deploying what I think has become the new strategy for the Democrats when going after Donald Trump. And that is not to make him big and ominous and scary, but to make him very small. And so here, former President Clinton, who knows how to read a room, by the way, he ripped up his original speech so that he could speak where he thought the crowd was and where they wanted to go. So rather than going at Donald Trump as the big existential threat, he said, "No, next time you listen to him, don't worry about the lies. Just count the eyes. Just the narcissism argument." And that makes the former president look much smaller, not bigger. And I thought that was an interesting play there by someone who is a very good politician, probably one of the best we've had in terms of reading a room, delivering a message. This was also interesting. Bill Clinton urged everyone to talk to their neighbors and have different kinds of conversations about their politics.
I urge you to talk to all your neighbors. I urge you to meet people where they are. I urge you not to demean them, but not to pretend you don't disagree with them if you do. Treat them with respect, just the way you'd like them to treat you.
Don't demean them, but don't shy away from disagreeing. That's okay. And so he went on to talk about meeting people where they are and having a different kind of conversation there. I thought the former president, while clearly not what he once was, clearly older, a little more shaky, a little rougher around the voice, but I thought he delivered a pretty important message and recognizing it's a new party and they need to turn the page. I talked about this before the convention started. Whichever party turns the page and writes a new chapter without holding on to the old ones will win. And the Democrats have done a pretty good job this week of getting there. In a surprise appearance to close things out, Oprah emphasized that Americans should help everyone regardless of their politics.
We are not so different from our neighbors. When a house is on fire, we don't ask about the homeowner's race or religion. We don't wonder who their partner is or how they voted. No, we just try to do the best we can to save them.
Good message there from Oprah. She also had a lot of very strong moments. She got into a little bit of the hardcore stuff, but only for a minute. She kind of just brushed past it a little bit. And tonight, of course, will be the big test, the ultimate test of this convention. Comes down to the Vice President, Kamala Harris, as she accepts the nomination formally tonight. We'll jump into that coming up at 2:05 to talk about where she is and what she needs to do if she's going to take this momentum and parlay it into a movement. A lot of work to be done. There's a lot of tests in terms of actual results and where the American people are, not just in the rhetoric. The rhetoric's interesting and important, but where they're actually living is, I think, what's going to decide how this election actually comes out and which side actually talks to the American people where they are and what they're experiencing at home, at work, around the kitchen table, and as they walk around their neighborhood. That's going to be the real conversation coming up with 75 days to go.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. The Democratic Convention rolls toward the nomination.
I'll see you when we're making a real joyful noise when the votes are counted. God bless you, and God bless America.
Get updates all this week. Listen in the morning with Tim and Amanda, and to Jeff Kaplan in the afternoon as you drive home. The Democratic National Convention, all week on KSL News Radio.
Hey, what do you think would happen if you had instant access to your own coach and dietitian to help you lose those frustrating pounds that have been hanging around too long, the inches that are just hanging in places they shouldn't, and all the things that are keeping you from living the active, healthy lifestyle you want? Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. When I tapped into my SOTA weight loss specialist, that's SOTA, state of the art, my coach, my dietitian helped me lose 37 pounds in 90 days, and I've stayed at that exact weight for over 2.5 years now. It's not a trick. It's not a fad. It's not about pills or potions or anything else. It's about science and changing the way you look at food. And if you want instant access to your own nutritionist, you can do it right now. Go to sodaweightloss.com and just click on the button, and within minutes, you'll have a nutritionist on the line talking to you about your plan and what can help you get where you want to go. As I always say, when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, no time to lose, only time to win. Start winning today. Get instant access to that and some real results at sodaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
...became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
When Dee and I build our new home, and it's almost been 10 years now, I think of all of the appliances that we put in that house, and I cannot tell you how many of them already we have had some major repairs and even replacements. You know the one thing that I haven't given a second thought to? It's the Connecticut soft water system. It is remarkable. We've had 2 systems in 2 different homes, and not once have we ever called with an issue to my friends at Connecticut. It's time for you to call Connecticut. If you're replacing an old system or if you're building a new home, whatever it might be, you will be amazed at how efficient the Connecticut soft water system is. For example, when your neighbor puts in 3 bags of salt in his or her system, you will be putting in only 1. It's remarkable how efficient it is. Give them a call. Great people to do business with. Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer at 801-576-8600 or go to softwaterutah.com.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age. Brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, we'll see more isolated thunderstorms around Utah this afternoon, while there's also a risk of wildfire in parts of the state. Second, searchers are trying to find a missing 8-year-old boy near Flagstaff, Arizona. And third, a new state report says many of the deaths among those experiencing homelessness could be prevented. 85 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Well, the election season has had, can't just say its fair share, more than its fair share of twists and turns. We've had everything from the current president bowing out, assassination attempt of the former president, the rise of Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee, a pretty stunning and stirring 3 days, and going into the 4th day of the Democratic National Convention. And clearly, everything shifted. It wasn't that long ago that the Republican convention made it feel and seem as though it was inevitable that Republicans were going to sweep their way into the White House and maybe even take both houses, and onward they go. And now people are having a very different conversation. And, of course, the thing we always ask and things that we always look at is it real? Is it motion, or is it forward movement? Is it just kind of a sugar high, or is there real substance underneath it? And that's why we always get past the headlines, or what we often refer to as the top lines when it comes to polling. Someone who spends all day doing that and really getting down to the real analysis underneath the hood, so to speak, is Laksha Jain, CEO of Split Ticket, a data-driven election analysis website. And Laksha, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you've been doing some digging underneath the polling and getting into what us geeky, nerdy people love to get into, the crosstabs, to talk about is this real momentum starting to happen for the Harris-Walz campaign? Give us a sense. What have you found underneath the hood?
You know, I can totally understand why people are skeptical, because the last two presidential cycles, we've seen very, very high-profile polling misses. But based on everything I've seen, this is actually real. Kamala Harris has essentially single-handedly changed the election overnight for Democrats. They were on course for a very, very big defeat as late July. And in 3 weeks, Harris has basically repaired all of the damage that Biden had experienced among his base, and she's made substantial gains with independents to basically make this back to a 2020 redux for Democrats.
Yeah, so fascinating. And you got into some really specific issues and areas underneath that polling that shows just what she's been able to both repair and expand. She's really expanded the map in a lot of different places. Talk to us about a couple of those. Let's start with the young voters. Are the young voters really back, and are they really going to play big? They're always talked about. They don't always deliver. How does it feel at this point in the program?
You know, I think they are back, because in polls throughout most of the cycle, we saw that the dissatisfaction at the presidential level was really a Biden-specific effect. Young voters were continuing to back Democrats down the ballot for the Senate, for the House, for governor, for all of these races. In the midterms, they voted for Democrats at extremely high rates, basically higher than 2020. So it's no surprise to me that with Harris on the ballot, she's basically reverted young voters to the margins that Biden got in 2020. And it makes sense from both an intuitive perspective. An 82-year-old white man is possibly the worst candidate to appeal to young voters, and from a data perspective, where now this is just more in line with how they're voting across the rest of the ballot.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier those very important, very tricky to go after undecideds or those independent voters. And this is often the challenge, especially when you're kind of in convention season, because you have to play it to the base and fire up the base and get them engaged and involved and doing all the things that the base does. But at the same time, you got to create space for the independents, because ultimately they will be a big deciding factor in this. What do you see in the polling and underneath the polling in terms of how the Harris ticket is doing with those independents?
Walz campaign with the independent voters has actually been surprisingly robust. Now, I would not have expected this, because Kamala Harris's image was underwater as late as the middle of summer. But right now, weirdly enough, voters don't seem to have that many concerns about Kamala Harris, which is not something that pre-race polling would have told us. They're doing a very good job in projecting a moderate image. Voters don't really have a lot of concern that she's extreme. Independent voters are broadly satisfied with her and have a pretty decent image of her. It's not overall very favorable, but it's better than Donald Trump's by a significant amount, and that is what is driving a lot of her gains beyond just the Biden 2020 coalition restoration.
Yeah, it seems like she's been able to capture the fact that she's been an idea. Like, she's really been an idea. There hasn't been a lot of those things that you mentioned that before she was made the nominee. There were things that were kind of pulling down her approval rating, have all kind of disappeared in that she's become this idea. And I think they've done a really effective job. Again, regardless of where people fall politically, they've done a very nice job in this week at the convention to keep it in the idea factory space and to keep that momentum going. Give us one last thought of obviously, as we round the corner coming out of this, she's got a big speech to deliver tonight. But then we'll have a little bit of an exhale for about a week, and we'll hit Labor Day. and then the afterburners go on for both campaigns. What are you going to be watching for underneath the numbers rolling post-Labor Day?
You know, the thing is that almost every candidate gets a convention bound, so to me it would not be surprising to see Harris hit +5 or so in national polls. She's at 3 right now. What I'm going to be watching for is how her image with independents holds up as the election season heats up, because this is a very, very late cycle type of twist. And so there's going to be late movement, in my opinion. I think voter images of Harris are not super well formed right now, and that's a big plus for her. And the Trump campaign has tried to levy a lot of attacks. They have broadly not worked. The voters don't really care about the attacks they're levying, and it doesn't help that their nominee has essentially no discipline and message. But if that can change, if they can successfully tie her back to her 2019 positions in her presidential campaign, that could be a really, really big tell. And for me, I'm just watching her favorables with independents. How does that shift? That's the one thing for me that will tell me, is this going to last? And is the Democratic Party once again the favorite for the White House? That's what I'm watching.
Yeah, great analysis, great insight. Laksha Jain, CEO of Split Ticket, data-driven election analysis website. And Laksha, we look forward to having you back. Really, really nice analysis under the numbers to help us get perspective in terms of where we are and what we should be watching for as we look at what's next. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, man. Real pleasure.
All right, that's Laksha Jain from Split Ticket. And that's some really good analysis there. What's underneath the numbers? That's how you tell if something is a sugar high or if there's some real substance to it. That's the real test. And can you put in the practical tacticals to go with the soaring rhetoric? That's going to be the test for both campaigns post-Labor Day. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Former President Trump's fundraising visit to Park City next week is being postponed. Had been set for August 29th. Utah's Republican Party confirms it won't be that day. They'll try and reschedule it for another date. 2 people recovering today after a dump truck's brakes caught fire on I-215 yesterday, and then a tire blew up. Highway Patrol says the driver and another person were trying to put out the flames when the tire popped and shot debris. The driver ended up in the hospital. The other person treated at the scene. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The state Supreme Court in Alaska is hearing a case about ranked choice voting. If a candidate gets at least half the votes, they win. If not, goes to a second round until a winner is decided. Here's ABC's Perry Russum.
Supporters of ranked choice voting say it's a more democratic way to select a winner. Opponents say it just doesn't make any sense. Now the state Supreme Court in Alaska will decide if voters there have a chance to repeal it in November. Voters in Alaska first used ranked choice voting in 2022 after approving it in 2020. The groups involved are asking for a ruling by September 3rd. Perry Rustam, ABC News, Washington.
Some communities in Utah have also experimented with ranked choice voting. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down now 209 points on the day, while the NASDAQ is down 291. And our KSL weather, sun shining now, but we could see another possible thunderstorm. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Our children spend a lot of time going to school. They gain an education, social skills, leadership opportunities, and make friends, sometimes for a lifetime. But we also want them to be safe and protected while they're at school.
National Weather Service has
Our school administrators take their responsibility very seriously to plan and prepare for hazards and dangers. As parents, take the opportunity to become familiar with your school's emergency plans. Learn more about how school faculty and staff will respond, communicate with you, and reunite you with your children in an emergency. Look for ways that you can volunteer to help your child's class be better prepared, possibly by assembling mini disaster kits, and discuss emergency plans and protective actions with your children. Designate meeting places outside your home and outside your neighborhood. What should you prepare for? What can happen in our area? And what do you need to keep your family safe? Find out at the Utah Division of Emergency Management's Be Ready Schools program at beready.utah.gov.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PCLaptops.com. I've been advertising with KSL Radio for decades now, and radio works. With all the clutter on social media, radio cuts through all the noise and gets directly into your customer's brain. If you're a small business and want to reach the local audience here in Salt Lake City, KSL Radio is the way to go.
If you'd like to know more about the benefits of advertising with KSL News Radio, email Stephanie Palmer at spalmer@ksl.com.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know. But most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
We've had a report of lines down. It may have been due to the weather. Redwood Road, 118th South in South Jordan. And that did affect traffic lights, which possibly caused a crash. And now crews are going to be blocking traffic both directions of Redwood Road in that vicinity in order to work the scene. It's a spot you may want to avoid and take an alternate route. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, there's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow. Will dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. And right now, 88 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The ebbs and flows of the presidential race continue, and they even impact us here in the Beehive State. Former President Donald Trump was set to fly into Utah, hold a fundraiser in Park City next week. But things have changed, as they often do in campaigns. And as is usually the case, there's the high-level reason, or what they tell you, and then what's really going on. So we want to make sure we get underneath the headlines just a little bit. Obviously, with the election timeframe and season accelerating very rapidly, once the Democrats are out of their convention at the end of the night tonight, everyone will take a little bit of an exhale. Just a very quick catch your breath. Labor Day happens, and the sprint is on. As of today, we're 75 days out, and those days are going to tick by very swiftly, especially in a campaign that just started over just 4 short weeks ago. So, former President Trump is not coming to this high-end fundraiser in Park City next week. And the official email that was sent to the high-end donors that were going to be attending, it simply said that the event had been postponed due to changes in the president's schedule. He looks forward to seeing you in Park City soon, the email read. So the former president's schedule changed. Why did it change? Let's take a look at that. This is what happens in a campaign. We often say that campaigns ebb and flow, and you have to be ready to either defend or advance based on what your opponent is or isn't doing, where they are or are not succeeding. And often what you're trying to do, especially when it comes to presidential politics, is you are trying to get your opponent to have to spend resources. And when I say resources, the two big resources are time first, then attention, then money. Those are the big three: time, attention, and money. If you're in a state and you should win that state, and suddenly you have to start thinking about it, that's suboptimal. If you have to spend a few extra dollars in it, maybe in terms of some advertising, that's not helpful. But if you got to go spend time campaigning there because you've lost momentum or the other side is on the march, now you got a real issue because you're spending time, attention, and money. And let's talk about where that's happening. So for the Democrats, the Harris-Walz ticket, their whole focus, of course, is on the blue wall states. Always swing states: Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania. And it wasn't that long ago that most of those swing states in the upper Midwest were all tilting towards the former president. Those have started to balance out and even tip a little bit in Vice President Harris's direction. So the former President Trump campaign have to spend some resources. So they got to spend a little more time. They got to spend a little more money, a little more attention there. But then you get a place like North Carolina. North Carolina is absolutely vital to the Trump campaign. In fact, I don't really see a path to the presidency that does not include North Carolina in the Republican column. And it should be pretty safe. It's been pretty staunchly Republican. It's gone for Donald Trump the last two cycles. And now, all of a sudden, there's some things that are kind of interesting going on in North Carolina. And so what happens? Time, money, and resources. No small thing that for the first time this cycle, Donald Trump went and did a big-time outdoor rally in North Carolina. And my guess is next week, rather than being in Park City, Utah, former President Trump is going to find himself in North Carolina. Because suddenly that has become an area where the Harris campaign has seen an opportunity and they're going to push. And if nothing else, even if they can't flip it, they're going to at least force the Trump campaign to spend attention, time, and money to make sure they preserve it. Now, on the flip side, where is former President Trump today? He's in Arizona. Democrats won Arizona and Nevada in 2020 for Joe Biden. It's been very close. Again, it's kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit. And so what is Donald Trump doing? He is in Arizona because he either wants to make sure he can win that or at minimum force the Harris-Walz campaign to spend time, attention, and money in Arizona. Same thing holds true for Nevada. Nevada has gone blue for quite a while now, but there's been some interesting momentum there. And former President Trump has done very well in kind of chipping away at the blue wall inside of Nevada. And so whether he can flip that into a red state electorally or not, he wants to make sure that the Harris campaign has to spend those precious resources in Nevada. And so that's an important thing just to keep in mind. You're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of flips and flops over the next 75 days. That's what we got left, as both campaigns have to respond to what's happening on the ground. And you'll see something scheduled for Park City, Utah, that suddenly gets taken off the agenda because they got to go somewhere else, either to defend or to take advantage of an opening to try to gain some momentum. And so that's going to go back and forth a lot over the next 75 days. And regardless of what we see in the polling, as we discussed with Alexa Jane just in our last segment, it's what's underneath the numbers. The top line numbers are interesting to me always, but it's the crosstabs. It's what's underneath those that gives you the better insight and better information. So these are some things that as you look at places like North Carolina, you can see, it's about a toss-up. But underneath that, what's really going on? Are they doing better than or worse than how things played out in 2020? Is this an area where maybe there's been in-migration or where things have shifted in the state capital? All of those can have a big impact. But that's part of the politics of it all. The campaign side of it all is making sure you are defending areas where you're strong in such a way that you don't have to spend more resources on them. Then they're just safely in your column, and you can focus on those swing states, whether it's the upper Midwest or whether it's kind of that Sun Belt of Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. But then if you start seeing places like North Carolina come into play, if Minnesota or Wisconsin suddenly starts to shift a little bit, then you're going to start really seeing some of those battles. We already know both campaigns should probably have to pay taxes in the state of Pennsylvania because both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been spending probably more nights sleeping in Pennsylvania than they have anywhere else because that's where the race is closest, and that's a big tranche of electoral votes that they need to actually win the White House. So those are all the things underneath the headlines, all of the ebbs and flows to it all. Again, former President Trump not coming to Utah next week for a big fundraiser in Park City. Why? Because he's got some places he's got to go defend or some places where he might see some advantage that he might need to go play. So he won't be here just raising money. That's the one component. It's that time and attention thing. Cause your opponent to defend and spend resources and take advantage of the opportunities that come. So all that's going to play out. Of course, the Democrats will bring the House down and the lights down at the end of the night tonight. We'll talk about what Vice President Harris has to do coming up at the top of the hour to make sure that Chicago isn't just a feel-good moment, but a forward movement for Democrats. And then we'll look at what the former president needs to do to get back on track. He's been a little bit on the back foot for a while, and what will change the dynamic and the race there moving forward. All right, we'll step aside for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go back to my conversation with Joseph Sim, who is traveling across the United States, west to east, talking to strangers. Why? Find out next. We'll be right back.
Right now at Wendy's, you can get a small Frosty for $1. And literally everyone is going. The car behind you, going to get a $1 Frosty. The car ahead of you, already had one, going for a second. The person who cut you off earlier, you guessed it, $1 Frosty. Maybe it's all a sign for you to go get one. Just don't cut anyone off. No one likes that person. The iconic Frosty for $1, gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Not valid in a combo. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, California, and via third-party delivery.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards concert tickets for your daughter to see that singer who sings about painful breakups. And one song will inspire your little beauty to break up with that beast she's dating, Brian. Instead, she'll date someone who's nice and worthy of her love, not someone who addresses you and your spouse as bro. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, checking in?
This is not just your flu shot appointment at Walgreens.
Yes.
This is getting your entire family vaccinated in one trip.
Hey, Mom?
And a snack on the way out. Get flu shots for everyone in your family, together. Schedule appointments online today. This is wellness made easy. Walgreens.
Vaccine subject to availability and for ages 3+. State and health-related restrictions may apply.
When you're getting a new roof installed, you don't want to wonder, when are they going to be done? Or even worse, what are they doing up there? You'll never have to ask when you hire IWC Roofing, because their team of certified installers will be texting you pictures from the roof. You're going to know exactly what's going on and what you're getting for your money. And on most homes, they'll do the entire job in one day. In, out, cleaned up, and they'll even power wash your driveway just to say thank you. Now, you think you'd pay a premium for this level of service, but IWC does so many roofs, they get the material for less, and they pass the savings on to you. IWC is an Owens Corning certified platinum contractor. Of course, financing is available. Even better, their summer special, up to $2,000 off your quote. But you have to make the call. $2,000 off right now. Call IWC Roofing, 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690. Or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
How would you like to buy a select Bernina sewing machines with free embroidery software and more extras valued over $4,000?
Prices are slashed.
Hot deals at Dave's Bernina.
At their St. George and Provo locations.
Offers so good and they won't last long. Featuring 1.9% interest for 48 months on certain machines.
All machines are discounted.
The Bernina L Series sergers are specially priced that include free serger packages valued over $1,000.
All new Berninas come with a 5-year warranty and free classes.
Did you know magic is here? Come see the new Bernina 990. This is the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world. Come in for exciting special pre-order offers.
Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Hurry in for amazing bargains on trade-ins, classroom, and demo machines that come with warranties.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the fundraising stop former President Trump was planning in Utah next week has been postponed. Second, burning brakes led to an exploding tire on the side of I-215. And third, Alaska's Supreme Court is looking at the legality of ranked choice voting. 88 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today, as always. And as you know, on this show, we are always talking about how we avoid the fake fight, the false choice, and the fact that we're just not as divided as some people want us to believe we are here in America. And no matter how much the media, the politicians, the political campaigns try to push this wedge issue of division because it's great for fundraising, it's a great way to win a political campaign, it's just not real. And it's up to we, the people, to figure that out. Well, our next guest believes that the reason we have to do all of this is because of what it looks like when you actually travel across this country and what community actually looks like and feels like when you actually talk to real Americans across the country. And we are really thrilled to have joining us on the program today Joseph Sim. Joseph is part of an extraordinary documentary that he is building out. Joseph is a feature film producer and has been driving from the West Coast to the East Coast. And we're actually catching him on a day when he's coming through the Beehive State. And Joseph, welcome to the show.
Boyd, thank you very much for having me. How are you?
Doing well. And I'm so excited that we get to catch up with you while you're driving through Utah. I think that's significant. So tell us about this project. I know that our friends at Braver Angels have been tag teaming with a host of others that you've been interacting with. But give us a sense of this project and why you chose to do this, especially as we roll up to a pretty intense election year here in the U.S.
I would be more than happy to. I'll tell you, there are a few things more exciting than when you've had a passion project or an idea that is just, it's one of those ideas that just won't leave your brain. It's almost like you don't have a say in it. It just won't escape you. And so when you get to finally make that and you get to finally put that into production, I can tell you that as a creative or as someone that just believes a great deal in some of the things you just mentioned, there's few things more satisfying than that. So the entire premise for this documentary is a case for curiosity. I'm approaching this as someone that is just curious about the state of America when it comes to polarization. And so, it's one thing to say that, in order to depolarize America, in order to reduce tension, we should be asking more questions. That's a very easy thing to say. My thought and hope is it's another thing entirely to go out and prove it. And so that's the case study that I'm working through, driving across and doing right now. So about 2 weeks ago, I got into a very English Mini Cooper in San Francisco, and I've been driving it from San Francisco in a big configurative S, going up north, going up south, all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, and the trip will conclude in New York City. And the entire premise is throughout the course of this trip, speaking to every stranger I come across. Now, there'll be sit-downs with experts in the world of depolarization. You mentioned Braver Angels, who have been outside of being instrumental to this project, have been, it is truly incredible what it is that they're doing. And so they'll be prominently featured throughout the course of this documentary. But as opposed to the traditional documentary format of bouncing between, 5 or 6 experts in a studio space, I figured, wouldn't it be fun if we bounced between, 500 strangers across America? So that's what I've been doing.
I love it. And I can't think of anything that's more important to prove it out. And I think it is going to prove out in a big way for you. We talk about it in the context on this show of radical curiosity. And
Fantastic.
Just starting to think in terms of, you don't have to agree with anyone, but if you can get to that radical curiosity of, I wonder why she thinks that's a good idea, or I wonder why he believes that would solve that problem, that's when everything starts to change. So give us a sense in terms of some of these early conversations. Obviously, if you've been making your S up and down the West Coast, what's the feel so far?
It's been remarkable, and I've test ran this slightly in London, England, a couple of years ago, just to see what happens when you ask, let's say, multiple strangers across a wide variety of demographics the exact same question. And the result there, and what I hope is the result now, is that you learn something you never thought you were going to learn, and you become allies and friends with someone that you maybe initially didn't think was possible given the current political climate. So this film is never going to tell you who to vote for. It's never going to tell you what to think. The simple call to action is to get curious in the people around you. And my honest hope is that any viewer is going to watch this documentary, see someone that they are told is unlike them or that they wouldn't get along, and you're going to have that wonderful feeling where you realize, like, oh, I kind of like what this person's saying. I think I actually quite like what this person is doing, even though they're from a completely different side of the tracks than I am.
Yeah, we love that. Getting to that awe and wonder where you are just so surprised of either, I never thought of it that way, or, oh my gosh, how could that happen? And then you start having, we like to call it holy envy, that, it's like, wow, I love that they think that way, or I love that they sit down around, the table at the local bar and do it that way in that particular town.
Right.
We've also found, and we firmly believe, that it is community and culture that lead, and that the politicians will follow. Now, the politicians will convince us that they're in charge and they're running things and we're all kind of powerless. I'm wondering if you're getting a sense of that at all in terms of just what happens in community around this country, and why we shouldn't have to worry so much about the polarization of big national politics, because community and culture ultimately lead and carry the day.
Yeah, I think that's, to answer your question from before, some of the earliest conversations, this trip started in San Francisco, then went down to, I think it went, then it was Vegas, and then over towards Utah. The thing that I'm finding whenever I speak with people and truly just connect with them, you do the couple of introductory questions. Before you know it, you're just chatting as friends. And I think everyone across many, many different states and from many different demographics, it seems to be that everyone has been told that on a national level, everything is on fire. And yet they have individual stories of the opposite of that. They have individual stories of, my neighbor and I, we disagree on this, but we still, we're still making it work. We're still taking our kids to school. We're still, saying hi to each other in the morning. So my understanding, and I hope the documentary tells us well, is that it seems like there is a different perspective as to what's happening, far away on somewhere else in America, as opposed to what's actually happening neighborhood to neighborhood, town to town. It seems to be about the same, that most people seem to just want to get along.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is. It's taking your kids to school. It's showing up at Little League. It's helping a neighbor who's sick or having a challenge. It's all coming together that way. That is the most important thing. Before I let you go, I know that things are scheduled to kind of wind up and start releasing things in October.
That's correct.
We hope that you'll dial in as you continue your way across the country. I understand you do have a little wedding in the middle of all of this. I just have to call you out and congratulate you on that. That's great.
Yes. Thankfully, the documentary will be wrapped, as was agreed upon very specifically, will be completed before that. But I'll be getting married this Saturday in Utah. So I've been spoiled rotten in terms of some of the things I get to be a part of over the last few weeks.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we look forward to following you along on the road trip across a divided America, proving out, I think, some of the vital principles that should really give all of us a lot of hope and a lot of confidence, and that will help us all remember that it's not the first Tuesday in November that matters. That's the politics and the polarization and all of that. What matters most is the first Wednesday of November, when everybody across this land will get up and go to work and be involved in their community and make a difference. And that's what will keep it all rolling along. Joseph, thanks so much for joining us today. We will continue to track your journey. We look forward to seeing the documentary when that's released, because I'm sure that's going to spark some very crucial conversations across the country. And we look forward to being a part of that. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I certainly hope so. Boyd, thank you. Such a pleasure.
That was my conversation with Joseph Sim. He actually came in the office today, was here in the studio, and we continued that conversation. He's really already had some amazing things take place as he just approaches people on the street or sees somebody at the side of the road or in a restaurant. And I think he's on to something that is so true and that I've always believed, and that is what we hear and what we believe about being divided is not the reality. When you actually do something incredibly radical, you talk to people. And imagine the difference if we just talk to each other just a little bit more, and not just about politics, but about life, about what matters, and about our communities. That wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we've got an exciting hour number 2, including a look at what the Vice President has to do tonight and some amazing parenting advice from a 14-year-old that you cannot miss. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Authorities in Cochise County, Arizona are looking for a man suspected of making threats against former President Trump on social media. CNN reports Trump is visiting the county on the U.S.-Mexico border today to talk about immigration. Here in Utah, firefighters are doing what they can to slow down the Iron Peak fire burning north of Cedar City. A firefighter spotted the smoke yesterday. They say it's in a location that's difficult to reach, so most of their attack is from aircraft. The fire has burned around 800 acres so far. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Ukraine carrying out a series of drone strikes inside Russia for more than a week now. And ABC's Patrick Revels in Kiev says the latest attacks appear to have targeted critical Russian air bases.
President Zelensky today visited that border area with Ukraine's top commander. He said that Ukraine is still making some advances there and claimed to again take more Russian prisoners. Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, has accused Ukraine of trying to strike the Kursk nuclear power station, which is located about 30 miles from where the fighting is taking place.
And your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down 177 points. The NASDAQ down strongly, down 299 points right now. And our KSL weather. We could see another thunderstorm this afternoon across the state of Utah. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state.
It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Finish out the summer with Zero Res. Now that the kids are going back to school, it's time to freshen up those floors. The cleaning experts at Zero Res will provide a safe and effective cleaning for your carpets, upholstery, tile, air ducts, and more. Just check out Zero Res's 4.9-star Google rating. This month, get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $99, plus 20% off your air duct cleaning. Book online 24/7 at ZeroRes.com and mention that you want the KSL special. Spell it backward or forward, it's the right way to clean. Zero Res.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here, representing Utah's priorities in Congress and providing top-notch constituent services at the heart of everything Team Moore does. We've had great success helping Utahns with expedited passports, visa processing, veterans benefits, immigration petitions, retirement issues, tax returns, and much more. If you need help navigating a federal agency, including the IRS, Social Security, the VA, Immigration Services, or Medicare, please give my office a call at 801-625-0107. That's 801-625-0107. We're also happy to help coordinate U.S. Capitol tours, take your comments, and provide legislative updates anytime. I also want to invite you to sign up for my weekly e-newsletter. We are soon entering what is called the political blackout period leading up to the election, meaning my office cannot reach out with updates and announcements unless you are subscribed to our communications. So sign up today at blakemore.house.gov. It's our honor to serve you and your family in Congress. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Looking for a beautiful and functional upgrade to your home? 3 Day Blinds has you covered. At 3 Day Blinds, our free in-home design consultation makes it easy. A 3 Day Blinds design expert will help you find the window treatment solution that works best for your home's needs and style. We bring the showroom to you with loads of samples, giving you an idea of how different fabrics look in your home. Your designer also provides expert measurements and helps coordinate installation. Book your free in-home consultation by visiting 3dayblinds.com. Take control of your window treatments with Motorized by 3 Day Blinds. Whether you're at home or on vacation, you can operate your window treatments with the touch of a button using the 3 Day Blinds app. 3 Day Blinds has specialized in window treatments for more than 40 years, and it's the name people trust. At 3 Day Blinds, we have stylish and functional window treatments for any occasion. For your free custom same-day quote, schedule your free in-home design consultation now at 3dayblinds.com. That's 3dayblinds.com.
And we have emergency traffic now brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash in Utah County on southbound I-15 in Linden. It's been blocking 3 right lanes of travel and is causing heavy delays. You could see backups lasting 15 to 20 minutes in that area. Also, heads up, Davis County drivers. The southbound West Davis Highway ramp to Legacy Parkway is currently closed for emergency road repair. Plan to visit the 12th annual Utah Renaissance Fair, August 23rd and 24th at the Young Living Farms in Mona, Utah. Visit utahrenfair.org for tickets and details. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And there's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow. We dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. Right now, 88 degrees, partly cloudy and windy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the headline heading into the final night of the Democratic National Convention, the moment everyone has been waiting for inside that arena, and that is Vice President Kamala Harris will deliver her formal, official acceptance speech and close out the convention. A lot of high-level things in terms of who comes before her, what the big entertainment will be for the night. But underneath that, I want to look at what are the styles and components that the vice president needs to hit in order to make this not just soaring rhetoric, but something of substance that could carry the campaign forward. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, if you've been rocking along with us this week, you know that I have noticed in watching all of the convention that there are some interesting things happening inside the United Center. Now, normally when you go to a campaign, a big convention like this, whether it's for the Republicans or for the Democrats, it is a raucous crowd. It is a crowd that wants to cheer, wants to celebrate, wants to create the positive vibes and energy in the room. And I think it has just been absolutely incredible to watch how the crowd, again, delegates, this is really the base of the Democratic Party, just as it was the base of the Republican Party in Milwaukee just a month ago. But to watch their reaction to different styles of speech and different messages, it's the ultimate testing in terms of messaging. And I love to look at that. And as I have watched the Democratic National Convention play out, it's been pretty stunning how the delegates have rejected what President Joe Biden was using as the base of his campaign, which has been that the former president is an existential threat to democracy, that if he is to be reelected, it will end the country as we know it, that it will cause a meltdown of the entire civilization, and on and on. And the interesting thing to me is that that has not played well inside the United Center in Chicago with these delegates. Again, this is the base of the party. It has not played well. And it doesn't matter who said it, whether it was Congressman Raskin, whether it was anyone with any kind of title. Nancy Pelosi got golf claps because she wasn't being congruent with where the delegates were. She didn't read the room. So I want to give you two examples to think again about as we roll into Kamala Harris's speech tonight and what she's been saying on the campaign trail. So usually campaign trail is preview of coming attraction. It's kind of the test. So I think there's two messages. If she goes down this path, I think it could be problematic for her in the arena tonight. So let's start with something from a campaign rally Kamala Harris had in Wisconsin just a few days ago.
Donald Trump intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations. He intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. And he wants to impose what is in effect a national sales tax.
So I think if she goes down that path, I don't think that'll play well. I think if she goes to the full Joe Biden model, like she did in Milwaukee, it sounds like this.
Donald Trump has openly vowed to be a dictator on day one. He has openly indicated his intention to weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies.
So I think if she goes down that path tonight, I do not believe that this group of delegates in the United Center are going to be on board. They'll try, they'll force it, they'll push along with it, but it's not where they want to go. Also in her Tuesday speech in Wisconsin, this is while the Democratic National Convention was still going on, she shared a very different message that I think she's been trying to nudge the other speakers in Chicago to get to. Take a listen.
We fight for the future. We believe in the future. A future with affordable health care. A future with affordable child care. A future with affordable housing and paid leave. That's the future we believe in.
So very forward moving. Now, policies underneath that, that's all going to come post Labor Day. So I'm not going to get into a nitpicky in terms of what is or isn't true and all of that. But the rhetoric matters. And remember, it's all about helping people tap in and think about what they think they ought to believe about themselves, about their community, about the country. And I think Kamala Harris has an opportunity if she follows the pattern. I think Oprah Winfrey got it right for the most part last night. I think Bill Clinton had some very important lines for Democrats last night And don't go beat your neighbor over the head trying to convince them that they're wrong. Meet them where they are. Have a conversation. Listen. Radical stuff. And that's the best way to persuasion. And so rather than making the former president out as a big, ominous, scary monster, make him small. Go after the narcissism, how small in the office that sounds, that it's underneath the office. And then, most important, get to the message. I think the one thing I have learned from Democratic delegates this week is that they're exhausted and exasperated with all the anger, fear, and frustration as the rest of us are. So does this mean, perhaps, that the fever is breaking? That enough of the American people, including the base of some of the parties, are finally saying enough? I know what you're against. Please, oh please, oh please, tell me what you are for. Because that is the essence of leadership. And that's what we should be expecting in this country, rather than accepting the anger, fear, frustration model that both political parties have been using. So, speech of her life tonight for Kamala Harris. How much time does she spend on the former president and her opponent and rival? If I were advising her on her speech, I'd say, I don't even know if I'd mention him. You don't even have to. There's been 4 days of that. Nothing shows more confidence and strength to say, I don't even need to talk about that. Why? Because I'm leading and we're winning. That's a pretty powerful message. Again, whether you like Kamala Harris or not, that's where she ought to go. She has momentum. Right now, she's an idea much more than she is a person, a politician, or someone who has a record. So she should lean into that. And if she does, she just might discover, and she just might reawaken in the rest of us, the idea that leadership isn't about looking backward, and it isn't about demonizing your opponent or weaponizing their words or seeing how many pejoratives you can put before, after, or in the middle of their name. But can you actually string together a sentence that is hopeful, that is forward-moving, and that will take people somewhere they want to go? And can you create that momentum of the northbound train that you're going somewhere and invite them to come along? That's the essence of a great speech, whether it's political, in business, or anywhere else, is getting on that northbound train. Why? Because you're talking about principles. And when you get to principle, then you're in the space of leadership, which ultimately will lead you to a place that people will want to follow. People want to be led. They want to be part of a story. Invite them to go and show them the way. That's what's going to happen tonight. It'll be the last night of the Democratic National Convention. Everyone will exhale, will march forward to Labor Day, and then we will be on our way to the sprint to the first Tuesday of November. Right now, we're 75 days away. I think there'll be 2 major events that will take place that will cause each campaign to have to shift, react, or lead. And whoever does that best will find themselves ahead on the first Tuesday of November. And then all of us can get to the first Wednesday of November, which, as I always say, is most important because that's where we all move forward, regardless of who wins or loses. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. The Cougars are back in the business of rivalry.
We have TCU and Baylor, but at the top is Utah and BYU.
The big time in the Big 12 just got bigger.
The Cougars win it! The Cougars win it! And here come the fans!
9 days to the season kickoff. BYU, Southern Illinois. Listen to Cougar Tracks for updates each day. 7:55 in the morning and 5:55 in the afternoon on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Well, I've reached another milestone on my journey with soda weight loss. It's 6 months since I hit my goal and let go of 70 pounds of fat weight. And in those 6 months, I've managed to keep it off and still enjoy all the benefits of my journey, me, including a new wardrobe, a new sense of self-confidence, and most important of all, a set of new habits that are healthy and that will last me for the rest of my life. This is what makes Soda so amazing. Of course, it's spelled S-O-T-A. I've now been enjoying the benefits of Soda weight loss longer than it took me to let go of the fat in the first place. So think about, where do you want to be in 4 to 5 months? Start the program now and you could be down 50, 60, even 70 pounds by the holidays. Imagine showing your family and friends the new transformed you at Christmas. Check them out for yourself. Go to sotaweightloss.com. That's sotaweightloss.com and see for yourself why Soda is #1 for client results and client satisfaction. Soda stands for, say it with me, say of the art.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Because of a surgery I had, it put me in a position where I had to learn to walk again. I had no hope for any more income. We had an IRS burden of about $36,000. With no income and only enough money to keep paying the bills, we had to make a decision. I was driving home from Salt Lake one day and I heard a commercial on the radio about Jordan Wilcox. I got home, my wife and I, we talked about it, and we made the decision to give Jordan Wilcox a call. We met with Jordan at his office, and they had a plan in place for me almost immediately. And because of the good work of the folks at Jordan Wilcox's office, that burden was reduced to about $895. When we found out that it was only $895, it was like the worst burden in the world had been taken off from our shoulders.
Don't face the IRS alone. I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Visit taxhelput.com to schedule your free consultation. Let's solve your tax problems. That's taxhelput.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, an 800-acre fire is burning in rugged terrain in Iron County. Firefighters are attacking it from the air. Second, Ukraine has been attacking air bases inside Russia with drones. President Zelensky visited the war zone today. Third, Salt Lake County's district attorney says he won't file charges against police officers involved in a shooting in Magna last year. 90 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson, and we always have crucial conversations on this program, and some things are really interesting, but some things are really important. And we're here for a crucial conversation today with two of my favorite people. Scott Miller, many of you know Scott. He's a 8-time best-selling author, most known to a lot of folks for his, I just call it the Mess series, From Mess to Success, whether that's leadership or marketing, management. And now we're going to explore this area of parenting. I'm also really excited to have in studio with us today. I think we sprung him from school. Please do not tell your teacher or actually, if you need a note, I'll write a note today. Thatcher was needed. Thatcher Miller is 14. He's at Judge Memorial Catholic High School. And he is part of an extraordinary tag team on the crucial conversation of parenting. And we often say families are messy, parenting's super messy. And we're going to talk about how do you go from parenting mess to launch success. And Scott and Thatcher, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Boyd.
Boyd, this is Scott. My honor. Thank you again for shining the spotlight on my son's great work.
This is fantastic. Now, the fact that the two of you work together, I know you have some pretty epic battles at your house in terms of technology, maybe keeping the room clean, but you guys got together and wrote a book together, father and son. Scott, describe that process. Then I'm going to let Thatcher dispute everything you say.
Well, I think it's been very phenomenal. I mean, I was raised in a family where I had no idea what my dad's career was. My dad had a 35-year career for a defense contractor. So, security clearance. And my dad couldn't talk about his job, quite frankly. And we never went to my dad's work. And one of my dreams as a father of 3 sons was that our boys, my wife and I, our boys could actually get involved in the family business. I was a corporate executive for 3 decades. There was no family business. But when I retired, so to speak, and started writing books, what a great opportunity to invite our oldest son, Thatcher, who isn't quite launched yet, but you might confuse you given his maturity, to have him co-write the 3rd book in the Mess to Success series because he has lots of experience around parenting messes, mainly from his dad, less from his mom.
That's right. We need to get your mom in here for one of these, Thatcher. I think we'd probably get a different story than both of you are going to share with us
Indeed.
today.
The true story.
The true story. Thatcher, so before we get into the content of the book, talk about going through that process. I always say everyone wants to be an author, but nobody wants to write a book because it's super hard. So describe what the process of writing the book with, especially writing it with your dad.
Well, Boyd, my dad told me the exact same thing that you just said. Everyone wants to write the book and finish the book, but not actually go through the process. And our process started with thinking of all of the chapter stories, writing all of them down, going with our family and thinking about all our stories through our past, the fun and the not so fun. And then we got together with a bunch of my dad's co-workers and we figured out all the names to the chapters that worked with the stories. And after that, we took a bunch of huge file cabinet papers and we hung them up across our wall, 30 of them. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and we wrote them all down. And as we were writing the book, we would write down ideas and put them in the folders. And then when the chapter came, we would take them out. And it was great to have all those visuals so that it was super easy to write the book. And as we were doing that, I'm starting to realize that I'm a really visual learner. Not so much audio, more visual. And now as I'm in school, I like a lot of my teachers because most of them are visual. Writing stuff on the whiteboard, doing stuff with videos. And I think I'm learning a lot better at my new school because so many of them are visual.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Well, let's dive into the content of the book. And I'm going to start with you on this one, Thatcher. Give us one of those chapters. And I love the visuals. I saw them online and saw how you had them all on the wall there. And it actually changed the way I've done some of my writing, even on some of the things for this show, in terms of getting that visual look to each of those. So, Thatcher, give us one of those chapters and one of those ideas or concepts, challenges inside Parenting Mess to Launch Success.
I think one of the good chapters and good challenges is they're watching every move you make. I have a great story for this one. The story is that we had this huge sofa that we've been wanting to sell for a long time. And we got our handyman, Victor, to come over and load it all up and take it to Park City to a furniture store. And as we get there, we see Victor waving at us. And my dad rolls down the window and Victor says, "I need to talk to you." And we have no idea what's going on. So we park the car and walk over to Victor. And Victor tells my dad, one of the pieces of the sofa is gone. And we're dumbfounded. We have no idea what's going on. How was one of the pieces of the sofa gone? And everyone's sort of super confused, and my dad's keeping his cool because he understands that we're all watching him, and we all know exactly what he's doing. And he looks at Victor, he shrugs his shoulders, and says, let's load it in. Because my dad doesn't know if the ladies from the furniture store have already taken it in, if someone stole it, if he flew off the highway. We have no idea. To this day, we still have no idea what happens. And the ladies were about to close the garage. They were closing it down. So my dad had to make a split-second decision. And my dad had no idea what to do. So he just went with his instinct, knew that we were watching him, and went with the right decision.
Love that.
And I think my dad's able to make decisions like that because he doesn't lie that often. And he's pretty trustworthy with us and with my mom, too. They're both very trustworthy. So he's able to make decisions like that even when we're watching him because he knows that he's trustworthy and we know that he's trustworthy. So it's okay to make decisions like that, especially in the moment.
I got to give you a rebuttal moment on that one, Scott.
I am so going to regret writing this book with Thatcher. I'm delighted that Thatcher can tell the story genuinely.
Yeah.
Because it was a moment of choice.
Yeah.
Did we lose the sofa? Did someone steal it? Did the handyman already load it in? And the store was closing, and I knew the boys were watching me.
Yeah.
And so I took the sofa in thinking, well, maybe one piece is already inside, recognizing it probably wasn't. The point is, to this day, we have no idea where that section went. This was a very expensive sofa. We ended up picking up from the store the next day and throwing it in a dump somewhere, I think, because you can't use a sectional sofa without all
the sections. Yeah.
But I think the moral of the story is I knew my boys were watching me, so I explained to them, I'm not quite sure where this is.
Yeah.
I hope it's inside. Anyway, it was one of those points where your children are watching and you have to kind of make the right decision.
Yeah, and I think just that element of trust, Thatcher, that you were talking about is so vital to all of that. There are several moose near Park City that have one section of a sectional that they have taken over.
And by the way, for the record, apparently I don't lie very often.
Very often, yeah. I was going to let that slide, but I knew your wife would call into the show and say, I'd like a rebuttal. This is such a great conversation. And Thatcher, before we go to break, we're just got about a minute or so before we go to break. Give us one of the other challenges. Just kind of tee it up, and then we'll get into it a little bit more as we come back.
I think challenge 30, the switch to friendship. And I think this one is super important because either parents swing one way or swing the other way, where they're really good friends with their kids or they're super strict with their kids. And I think it sort of decides what the kid's future is, decides how the kid's going to treat their parents in the future, treat other kids. You can't have a huge friendship with your kids, but you also cannot be super serious with them. Yeah. You need to have that in between. And I think both of my parents do a great job of being both. Yeah. Being friends when I need a friend, but also being serious most of the time.
And that takes a lot of planning and some forethought and some intentionality, I think, because really it's rejecting the false choice that you either have to be the best friend or you have to be the authoritarian, because the best answers are usually in the middle. Well, we're going to stay with the conversation here with Scott Miller and Thatcher Miller, co-authors of Parenting Mess to Launch Success. When we come back here on KSL News Radio, much more to come. You stick around. It's just going to get a little deeper, a little better, right after the break.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services has issued the state's first ever report on homeless mortality. Epidemiologist Tyler Ridesell says the findings show people experiencing homelessness are dying at younger ages than those in the general population.
56 years of age. Compare that to the general population or our housed population, 72 years of age. So we're seeing a 16-year difference.
A meeting with the Utah Homeless Services Board will be held at Capitol today to discuss the full report. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former President Trump went to the U.S.-Mexico border today in Arizona, part of his swing state tour this week, to counter the Democratic National Convention, where Vice President Kamala Harris speaks tonight.
She will never build the wall. She doesn't want to build the wall. If she changes her mind, it's only because she wants to get elected, because who wouldn't want to have a strong border?
At the same time, the Cochise County Sheriff in Arizona says they're looking for a man who's made threats against former President Trump on social media. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today down 170 points, while the NASDAQ was down 299, and the S&P 500 was down 50 today. Our KSL weather, again, a chance of thunderstorms later today and tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City with Advanced Window Products.
And I'm Jake, the other guy. Are your windows old and inefficient and driving up your energy bills?
It's time for an upgrade. Our energy-efficient windows not only look great, but also help you save on your utility bills.
And right now, we're offering an incredible deal, $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more.
That's right, $2,500 in savings to make your home more comfortable and energy efficient.
Plus, we offer a lifetime warranty on all our windows, so you can have peace of mind.
Don't wait. Call us today at 801-850-9100 or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free estimate. We also offer payment plans as low as $150 a month.
From our factory to your installation in 8 weeks or less. Call us today at 801-850-9100 or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free estimate.
Advanced Window Products, Utah's window experts.
At Common Spirit Health, we know that lifelong health and well-being starts with primary care. So we have doctors and providers who see you, hear you, know you, and understand you. Because understanding you means understanding your needs. And that leads to a deeper knowledge of the prevention, wellness, and treatment options that may be best for you. It's primary care that treats your whole family like family. It's primary care with human kindness. Discover all the ways you can find and connect with a primary care provider at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Attention homeowners considering roof replacement in 2024. Light up your home this August with Master Roofing. Schedule your roof replacement by September 10th and receive a free V-Lux sun tunnel valued at $1,200. Perfect for brightening your bathrooms and hallways. Don't miss out. Visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free assessment and claim your free V-Lux sun tunnel. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com today. Light up your home with Master Roofing.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
We have emergency traffic once again, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
Southbound I-15, the crash in Linden has mostly been moved to the right shoulder. It looks like one right lane may still be blocked to traffic. We have heavy delays that start as you're approaching Pioneer Crossing in American Fork, and you won't see better speeds until you're reaching 800 North in Orem. Experience fall in Cedar City, featuring 4 scenic highways, red rock views in Cedar Breaks and Dixie National Forest, Shakespeare Festival, hiking, mountain biking, and more. Begin your journey at visitcedarcity.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
There's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow. We dry out and cool off on Saturday and Sunday. And right now, we're at 90 degrees, partly cloudy and windy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson.
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. We always say what is purported to have been said by Einstein, and that is that he wasn't any smarter than anyone else. He was just willing to stay with the question a little bit longer. And so we're staying with the question a little bit longer today when it comes to parenting. How can you go from parenting mess to launch success? And we're just thrilled to have in studio with us today Thatcher Miller and his dad, Scott Miller. Scott Miller is an 8-time best-selling author. Of course, worked with Franklin Covey for a quarter of a century. How does that feel, Scott? Great leader, one of the great minds when it comes to leadership and strategy. And the two, Thatcher being all of 14, but 27 light years ahead of his time, collaborated. This is a father-son collaboration on parenting. And the book is just absolutely fabulous. And so let's pick up on some of these challenges. I love that the book is framed in the context not of just ideas, and principles, but ideas, principles, and then some challenges, some application to it. Scott, I'm going to let you pick us up. Pick one of the challenges and let it rip.
Sure. So all of the books in the Mess to Success series, of which there is Management Mess, Marketing Mess, and now Parenting Mess, they all follow a same format, which is we identify 30 challenges that everyone faces. In this case, Parenting Mess, Challenge 15, we titled Wilbur's Greatest Gift. Now, Wilbur was the family dog for 15 years. And this was a lovely dog that moved with us through 4 or 5 houses, and we had to put Wilbur down at the end of his life. And as people may know, Stephanie and I are raising 3 sons that are 10, 12, and 14. Thatcher is our oldest. You can tell Thatcher has no problem expressing himself. This will become evident as he, travels the nation. However, our middle son, Smith, is a little less verbally expressive. He's a little more of an introvert. He doesn't share his emotions well. He likes to bottle them up. And I've been talking to Smith, our middle son, who's 12, about how important it is to be able to cry. To express yourself, to say, I'm angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling frustrated. Well, it's an area of growth for Smith. When we put Wilbur down at our vet, we took all 3 boys with us. They wanted to go. It was a very emotional experience. You can imagine 15 years. And Boyd, it was the first time that I or our family had seen Smith cry. Smith didn't just cry. Smith lost it. And he sobbed and he dry heaved. And I think it was Wilbur's greatest gift because Wilbur's passing allowed Smith just to let it loose. And for a long time, made some people uncomfortable, but it was like one of my greatest days because I think Smith finally felt comfortable. I mean, he had 12 years of pent-up emotions, and it just flowed out in the veterinary's office. And so we all have had experience like that. Wilbur's greatest gift was validating how important it is that parents encourage and model for their children. That, listen, emotional regulation is an important concept for parents, for leaders, for children, but making it safe to cry, express your feelings, talk through them with no damage, with no vitriol, no backlash is so important for parents to model and encourage in their kids.
Absolutely love that. In fact, we saw that last night at the Democratic National Convention when Tim Walz's son lost it emotionally, was just in tears as he saw his dad up on the stage as the vice presidential nominee, and he is just sobbing, saying, that's my dad.
And today I see some of the other opponent's supporters that are mocking him for doing just that.
Exactly.
And I love that you brought that out because that means his parents have demonstrated to them it's okay to show your emotion.
Great space. That courageous vulnerability is such a great thing. I know that one of the things that is big in your household, because I follow you on social media, is reading and engaging the brain and not just rocking along. And Thatcher, let's go to you on this one in terms of what is that challenge and how do we actually live this whole idea?
Well, it's challenge 13. The best communicators are readers. And I think this is so important. We read every day, whether it's 30 minutes, 1 hour, or 5 hours, as you know, on Sundays when we're not allowed to use any technology. And my dad said something to me that has sort of stuck with me since a few years ago. He said, you can only think as deep as your vocabulary is wide. I'll say it again. You can only think as deep as your vocabulary is wide. And I think it's one of the most significant things that not just my dad, but anyone has ever told me. Because I used to hate reading. I used to despise it. I never liked it. But I started to realize that as I read more and more, I was more comfortable having conversations because I was using bigger words, I was stretching on conversations, and it felt more comfortable, not as awkward. And now that I've sort of recognized that, I just understand that it's so important to read. Even if it's for 10 minutes every single day, it's so important because if you have a big vocabulary, you can do so many things.
Yeah, I think it's so vital to get into that space, and I think parenting-wise and creating that space for, I think the most important skill for the 21st century is learning how to learn, but then learning to love learning, staying radically curious. Because as we often have guests on this show, we always say, that's great writing, but great writing starts with great reading and great thinking.
Yeah, I think it's so important. You can't really grow better at something if you don't love it, if you don't love what you do. I would have never stuck with reading if I didn't hear what my dad said and if I didn't keep doing it. If you love what you do, you get so much better at it. And I think it's so important in so many things in life.
Yeah, and the other thing that I love, and I'm going to come to you in a second, Scott, I'm going to stick with Thatcher for just a second. I know one of the things that you do at your house is you read newspapers together. Tell us how you go about that, what you read, and what conversations it brings into the house.
Well, on Sundays, before we go to church, we like to go to Smith's. And we always get a little thing of Mentos that we can bring to Smith. We split it in half. And my dad also gets newspapers for all of us. And after church, we either like to go to our clubhouse, which we're super lucky to be a part of, and a place called Loco Lizard, which is the best Mexican place possible with the best fajitas ever. And my dad hands us a newspaper and says, pick a story, read it, and then summarize it. And Wentworth Smith and I always read a story, different stories, and we have conversations about what's important. We talk about new words that we learned. We talk about new ideas, new people, new things. And I used to ask my dad a lot, what's happening with the Russia and Ukraine? What's happening with all of these things happening? And as I read the newspaper, I don't need to ask him anymore because you can be educated on so many things. And I think reading books and reading the newspaper are super vital.
Yeah, it forces you to get past just the headline stuff or the scrolling in your social media feed. Scott, give us some perspective. That's a very intentional thing that I think is a priceless thing.
I'm often accused of being intentional, and I am, as is my wife, Stephanie. She has a nice balance to my intensity. And Thatcher and I have talked about how reading is more than just building your vocabulary, which is very important if you want to be an influential communicator. It's about creating empathy and perspective, understanding differences of different cultures and religions and what's happening on the Palestinian side, what's happening on the Israeli side and the Russian and Ukrainian side. So reading is vital to your vocabulary. I don't think you build your vocabulary by listening or by playing video games, which is an important pastime.
Yeah.
You build your vocabulary by reading, but you build humanity. You build relationships and perspective by reading, because then you realize, I never thought about that. I didn't understand their point of view. And that's a crucial role that as parents, my wife and I are trying to teach our kids to try to see all sides of the story.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you read.
That's right.
But the more you read, the more you'll have a fuller picture.
That's right. And the more you can function from any point of the compass. You
Well
can have
said.
empathy for anyone. Wherever they're coming from, you can meet them where they are.
That's right.
And then you can have a very different kind of conversation. Well, as we come down the home stretch, Thatcher, I want to go back to something that you shared with us on Sunday Edition TV for KSL, and that is in this space of identity. I think that's such an important thing, and it's one that often creates some tension, I think, between parents and their kids at all different ages and stages of life. And so give us the challenge around identity.
It's called It's Their Identity, Not Yours Challenge 4. And I think it's super important because so many parents like to live vicariously through their children, controlling their children, making them do what they wanted to do. And I think it's so vital and so important that parents let their kids be themselves. Parents can control, you have to go to this school, you have to do this, you have to listen, you have to read, but let your kids wear what they want to wear. Let your kids do their hair. It's important to let your kids build their own personality so they can find who they are, not just you trying to live through them, trying to be a good parent, trying to build them up, when you're really tearing them down and tearing down their personalities.
Let's be clear. this is a mess. This is not something he is showing me up as a model of, right? So I'm learning a lot from my son's articulation of this on all of our media interviews.
It's such a good thing, and I think it's such a powerful process. I love the fact that you wrote this together. I think that's just an extraordinary thing and a great model. We always say not many marriages can handle writing a book together. The fact that we have a 14-year-old and a dad who's older than that coming together to write a book that I think is really compelling. It is practical, it is tactical, but it's meaningful. And it will cause you to think again about what you think you know about parenting or grandparenting for that matter. Scott and Thatcher, thanks to both of you for joining. Again, the book is called Parenting Mess to Launch Success. It is Scott Miller and Thatcher Miller. Thatcher, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd.
All right. And Thatcher, I think the great Jeff Kaplan will keep you from 3 to 7 to join him for doing some work on the ride home. Scott, as always, great to have you in the building.
It's our pleasure, Boyd.
All right. We'll go ahead and step aside for one last break. We'll come back with some final thoughts on Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, Utah. It's Congressman Burgess Owens. Are you stuck dealing with a federal agency? Need help with a passport, accessing VA benefits? Or is your child seeking a Service Academy nomination? Team Owens has your back. Connect with our remarkable casework team today by calling 801-999-9801 or by visiting owens.house.gov. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PCLaptops.com. I've been advertising with KSL Radio for decades now, and radio works. With all the clutter on social media, radio cuts through all the noise and gets directly into your customer's brain. If you're a small business and want to reach the local audience here in Salt Lake City, KSL Radio is the way to go.
If you'd like to know more about the benefits of advertising with KSL News Radio, email Stephanie Palmer at spalmer@ksl.com.
Join Jeff Kaplan August 29th from 10 to 1 p.m. to team up and tackle Utah blood shortages. ARUP Blood Services needs listeners, all of you listeners, to donate for the Labor Day weekend. Visit utahblood.org.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a new report on people experiencing homelessness in Utah shows they're dying at younger ages than the rest of the population. Second, former President Trump made a stop at the U.S.-Mexico border while local authorities there were looking for a man who had threatened him on social media. Third, clearing debris from the storm drains in your neighborhood is one way that you can help emergency crews deal with sudden thunderstorms. 90 degrees, partly cloudy and windy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, of course, it is the big finale for the Democratic National Convention coming out of Chicago at the United Center. And some big speeches to come up tonight, but the biggest of all, of course, will be the Vice President. Kamala Harris will formally and officially accept the nomination for the Democratic Party, and then the fun will really begin. And I don't mean the dropping of the balloons. That will be a moment. I will give the Democratic National Committee, they have done some very good things in a very short window to create this particular convention for the Democrats. They really only had about 3 weeks to put this together based on a Kamala Harris-Donald Trump race, as opposed to what they were planning on and had been planning on for a year, which was a Joe Biden-Donald Trump race. So there was some quick wheeling and changing there, and I think for the most part they've done that pretty well. We were talking earlier in the program about how some of the speakers went to the old message regarding the former president and kind of demonizing him as the greatest existential threat to democracy and freedom around the world and all of those things. And it just hasn't played well. The speakers that have gone down that path have not done well. The speakers who have been on a much more positive, forward-moving message, a turning-the-page message, let's do this different, those have been very well received, and I think they were actually a little more on track. The test now becomes where the rubber hits the road. And I think some of the speakers that acknowledge that this is not the end, this is just the end of the beginning for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. It's not even close to the end. This is just the beginning of the beginning, really. Nothing really starts until after Labor Day. And so what will they do next? That will be the test. And will they be able to define themselves in the context of both past performance and past policies and the results of those policies? And then can they articulate not just a joyful message, which I think has been refreshing. I think a lot of people, especially independent voters, have exhaled a little bit and thought, well, that at least sounds nicer. But then can it pass muster? Does it have enough substance in there that people say that's sustainable, that's doable. That's not just giving away cotton candy instead of getting people to eat their vegetables. It's doing things in a way where they can actually sustain it and move it forward based on policy and policy results, not just the rhetoric. Bill Clinton, both of the Obamas, warned the delegates, hey, don't get too excited here. This is fun. This is great. But there's a lot of hard work and heavy lifting ahead. And that's where it all happens. And I thought some of the advice that the Obamas and Bill Clinton in particular was pretty profound to say, look, don't just yell at people. Don't just demonize people. Meet people where they are. Have a conversation. Last night, Bill Clinton said, respect, show some dignity to the neighbor you disagree with. Doesn't mean you need to back down. Doesn't mean you need to agree with them. Just show a little respect and then move on. So a different kind of conversation there. Will be very interesting to see what Vice President Harris does tonight. How much of her message is geared towards former President Trump? I would do something that I know will not happen, but man, it would be a game changer if she did. What if Vice President Harris got up tonight and never uttered the words Donald Trump? What if she just laid out for the Democrats and the independents and those who are persuadable of her vision of where she wants to take the country? Be a game changer. It'd take a little bit of political courage. I think the rewards would be pretty high. I don't think that's what's going to happen tonight. I think you'll get a combo platter tonight. You'll get some of her background and story, which I think is important for the vice president to get to tonight. I think she'll have a middle section of the speech where she will go after former President Trump, and I think she'll go at that pretty hard. And then she'll pivot and get to a positive message, a future message. And I think she's been the one really driving this throughout the course of the convention, encouraging the speakers to get on that front foot of the positive message. And then the final test coming out of Chicago and moving past Labor Day for both Kamala Harris and the Democrats and former President Trump and the Republicans and all those persuadable voters, the independents, the movable middle, will be which of these candidates can deal with the changes and challenges of the next 75 days. I'm telling you, there will be two events, either domestically or internationally, that will cause these candidates to have to lead or have to react or have to respond. And they won't be able to do it based on their past history. They're going to have to do something new and different. That's going to be a big test. They're also going to have to manage their weaknesses. So Vice President Harris is going to have to do a sit-down interview. She's going to have to do some press conferences. How she handles that will be very much a determining factor. For former President Trump, he's going to have to give some speeches beyond big crowds and punching bag lines and actually get to some policy and substance where he actually has some advantage. So the question will be, what will they do and how well will they manage their own weaknesses? And we'll continue to break all of that down as we roll it along. But that wraps it up for today on Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 90 degrees, KSL's top story. For the first time ever, we're learning how many people in Utah are dying because they're homeless. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera with details.
The Utah Department of Health and Human Services calls it the Homeless Mortality Report. Epidemiologist Tyler Redessel says many of those deaths are preventable.
People experiencing homelessness are dying at higher rates and at younger ages than the general population.
The data shows people who are homeless die 16 years earlier and at a rate 10 times higher than the general population. The leading cause? Substance abuse. Redessel told the board the best way to help support the homeless is to beef up housing and access to medical care. Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
And we have breaking news on KSL. We just got word it's official. The proposal to change the Utah Constitution and give lawmakers more say over ballot initiatives will be on the ballot in November. Governor Cox signed the measure from last night's special session. In November, voters will get to decide whether to make the change as part of the state constitution. The measure would allow the legislature to reject or amend whatever might be in a ballot initiative. Police officers who opened fire on a man in Magna aren't going to face any discipline.